Welcome, my beautiful vibration lifters. Tonight we have a special guest, Sound the Profound. I met him at the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles. It was a very high vibe situation. And as I was walking by, he told me about his movement, I want to call it, of heart to heart transmission through hugging. And I'm just gonna let Sound go ahead and sound off on what he does and give the people a little information on what you do.
For sure. Thank you so much, Kevin. Appreciate it. This is my first podcast. It's an honor to
Awesome.
be doing this. And thank you for the opportunity to spread this message to all of your audience members.
Yes.
I want to invite everybody to join the Super Hug Club. The Super Hug Club is a community that supports one another's need for safe physical connection through the practice of super hugging. And a super hug is a consensual, platonic, intentional 20-second or longer heart-to-heart hug. It's been scientifically proven that when you hug somebody for 20 seconds or longer, it reduces heart rate, blood pressure, and cortisol, and it boosts immunity, dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, and oxytocin. So this is free medicine for anybody with another consenting party.
Free medicine. And how did you connect with this? How did you get hip to this science and technology here?
It all started for me with my recovery journey in 12 steps
Hmm.
pre-COVID.
Hmm.
Favorite thing about the 12-step meetings was at the end of it, we would all hug each other. I started to think, wouldn't it be nice if people would just get together just to hug, right? Just to be human beings. We didn't need to be alcoholics or addicts or codependents. We could just get together and get a hug.
Hmm.
I started sharing that idea with some of my 12-step buddies, and then one of them turned me on to the research behind the 20-second hug. And I had another friend who actually told me about heart-to-heart hugs. And I remember when he first told me about it, I was like, this is weird. Why you gotta be weird? Just like give me a normal hug. But then when I gave him a heart-to-heart hug, uh, I felt the difference. There's a noticeable difference because your heart is off center to the left side of your chest. So for a heart-to-heart hug, you raise your left arm to enter the embrace, and that aligns your heart with the person that you're hugging. So I started asking all my people for 20 plus second heart to heart hugs. And one day, one of my dear sisters spontaneously said, sure, I'll give you a super hug. And that's when it landed. I was like, oh, super hug. Yeah, that's fantastic because it allows you to communicate intention and gain consent.
Hmm.
Because you can't really hold somebody in a 20-second hug without their consent. Otherwise, it gets
Right.
awkward.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow, that's deep. And so this reminds me of, was it Heart Math or Heart Map? That I think it was Stanford that was doing all this information and research on the frequency of the heart, and that there was a field, the energy field that comes out of the heart, and that when we get close to each other, we're standing in each other's heart field. Have you studied that or researched any of that information? Is that part of your
Definitely,
understanding? Hmm.
definitely. So the heart has the strongest magnetic field in the body. It creates a toroidal magnetic field that extends out past the body in about an arm's length on both sides. So when you're standing in somebody's proximity, you're in each other's toroidal field. Through the super hug, you align the center of the toroidal field with the person that you're hugging. And it creates a very, very visceral sense of connection that isn't experienced otherwise.
Mm. Wow, that's deep. And since you've been doing this, have you noticed any changes in your life or in your health, or what have you seen?
Oh, it's glorious. It's glorious. It's my favorite medicine for sure, for sure. Um, yeah, I feel like I've unlocked God mode through this practice because it's given me an opportunity to look at all of my aversions to particular people and examine what's behind them. And through the agreements and through gaining consent, approach that person that I might have that aversion to and just connect with them and just let go of the stories and all the projections and literally retrain my somatic nervous system trauma response through the breath while in the embrace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And was it did you grow up in a family that was very open and loving like that? Was it easy for you to transition into? Because I'm thinking about people that might have had my family in particular was I was like always the sensitive one, and I always felt like I wanted more connection with them. And even to this day, when I hug my sister, she like gives me she's the one that hugs me the most, you know, like she gives me real hugs. My mom, my dad's on the other side enjoying that right now, but when he was on this side, he would, you know, he wouldn't really give me hugs. I always wanted more, basically. And I noticed I wanted more from my family, but then with other people, I give less because I was trained by them, you know. So I so it's definitely it was kind of difficult for me. Did you grow up in a very open family, or what was your background that kind of prepared you for this work?
My family is somewhat affectionate. They're Italian. My mom's
Mm,
side is Italian, so we hug each other, but it
hmm.
was never really a prolonged heart-to-heart hug.
I see.
And with my dad, he was born in World War II Nazi Germany.
Okay.
So, yeah, there was little to no affection with him. And I'm happy to report that today, through the Super Hug practice, I am able to connect with him much more deeply than ever before. And, he's very much in his mind. So I told him about the research, and that kind of sold him. And now at this point, he asked me for Super Hugs, and he's all about it. So we have a closer relationship than we ever had before, thanks to this practice.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And how about everything as far as like your rhythm of your sleep rhythm and your digestive rhythm and how it influences your actions throughout the day? Have you noticed any changes with that? You said it unlocked God mode. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so for me, I have an acronym for God. God is the greatest omnipresent denominator, so that which is present in all things. So if I can connect with everything in my experience, then that puts me more in tune with God.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this allows me to do that, approach all of my triggers and inversions in a safe, sustainable way, and just reprogram all of my, traumas around
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that I'm perceiving that I have an aversion to.
Mm-hmm.
And oh yeah, I mean it's boosting my serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin, all the things. So it just supports well-being
Wow.
throughout my life for sure. And I mean, I have a lot of supportive practices, but this is definitely my favorite one, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like you're a spiritual person? I mean, I feel like it, you are.
Am I a
But
spiritual person?
I mean, how do you would you
Yeah.
say that's your yeah, tell us about that because I feel like I just wanted you know, it seems obvious, but I just wanted to touch on that a little bit and yeah, just the connection with health, spirit, and this practice that this movement that you're
Yeah, I
involved
most
in.
definitely regard myself as a spiritual person. Yeah, and this practice is a fantastic way to connect with people spiritually and to connect with ourselves spiritually,
Hmm.
because like we can just, like I said, really get in touch with the stories, and the different things that, like the meaning making that causes us to feel separate from one another. We can break through that through this practice and just really tap into that unity consciousness. Um, yeah, it's just
Hmm.
such a beautiful way to connect with people because it's a heart connection. It
Hmm.
bypasses the rational thinking mind and it gets straight to the core of who we are, which I believe is universal consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. We truly are all one. You know, like if I were to grow up in your skin with your upbringing in your house with your parents in your neighborhood, I would be you, you know. And so I feel like it's our consciousness embody my. I am me embodying my consciousness, and I am you embodying your consciousness. So it's true, like we are all one. And it's interesting that there's this there's this perception of separation. I feel like God was like, you know what? I wonder what it's like to feel like I'm separate from who I am. And God was like, yeah, let me do this grand experiment. And then here we come on the earth, and we're just like, what? Like babes in the forest, like what's going on? But God's like, yeah, this is cool. Like I find my way back to myself. Wow, this is like so exciting.
Mm,
But it's so we get the opportunity as we are here to find these practices that remind us the truth, which is that we are all one, you know. And it's like,
mhm.
and what a beautiful way to do that, by interacting with someone's other heart toward a field and actually becoming one for a little while. Like, man, I bet you have so many. Can you give us a story on maybe how a hug, give me a profound hugging story, something that happened maybe you didn't expect.
Oof. Wow. Okay, let me
Oh,
think.
here's, here's I knew I heard someone coming. This is Tiam.
Ooh, a profound hugging story. Wow. I mean, so I'll talk about when I finally decided to launch this whole project. It was right after COVID, and I was trying to figure out how to launch it. And one of my friends said, "You need to take this to Burning Man." And I had never been to Burning Man before, but as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Yeah, that resonates. I need to take it to Burning Man." And this was like months before Burning Man. It wasn't that long at all. And I didn't have a camp. I didn't have any connections. I hadn't bought a ticket. I had no idea how I was going to get into Burning Man, but I knew that I had to go. And through divine alignment, everything worked out.
Mm,
I had some connections with some people that made it so I was able to get a ticket, found a camp, the whole nine. And I printed up a whole bunch of Super Hug Club merch, t-shirts, pins, and I went to Burning Man and I just walked around. I saw a lot of people at Burning Man who were engaged in 20-second or longer heart-to-heart hugs. And so I just approached them and be like, "Hey, you want to join the Super Hug Club?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course. Yeah." So we would share a super hug, and sometimes I wouldn't even know their name yet. And I just felt this deep rapport with them right off the bat, like they were like family or like an old friend or something. And
mm,
the whole connection just flowed from there.
mm,
It was effortless and it was glorious. And so many people would tell me, "Oh, this is so incredible that you're bringing this to the default reality," because
mm,
Burning Man is like a microcosm of the new Earth. People are
mm,
there expressing their truth and their creativity, and they're open-hearted and ready to connect with each other. And so it's like a little mini paradise in a lot of ways, in terms of being able to have these meaningful, deep interpersonal connections and to like really see one another,
mm,
for who we are without the mask. A lot of people just take their mask off when they're at Burning Man and they just express their truth.
mhm,
There's no judgment or anything. So yeah, it was just a profound experience connecting with all these people just on a heart level right off the bat. And once I had a taste of that, I mean, I would say that 95% of the people that I shared the practice with were enthusiastically receptive.
mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so like once I had a taste of that, I was like, man, I want to bring this to the whole world. I want everybody to have the opportunity to feel this and know what this is like. And the scientific research suggests that we should have at least 8 20-second hugs per day for optimal health. And
Mm,
while I was at Burning Man, I was getting dozens, maybe even hundreds. And I wasn't there doing a bunch of drugs or anything. And I was flying. I felt
mhm,
so good. And that was the first time that I'd ever received that many hugs in my life.
mm, mm.
So that just really compelled me to take this forward and share it with humanity.
Wow, wow. Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, how many people are in the club right now? Are you tracking the numbers?
It's hard to track right now. I probably initiated hundreds or maybe 1,000.
Mm,
I have it on 4 continents now. It's in North America, South America, Europe, and Africa. Got people out in Egypt and Ghana super hugging.
wow.
There's people in Italy, France. Um, I had the honor of initiating some of the leaders of the Huni Quinn tribe from the Amazon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of Huni Quinn initiates and a bunch of people in Sao Paulo, Brazil, in Peru. Yeah, and then throughout North America. And so it's hard to tell exactly how many people because the beautiful thing about the Super Hug Club is that it's not relying on me. Once you've been initiated, you can initiate other people.
Mm,
You can initiate as many people as you can, you know?
hmm.
So I'm not sure how many people have been initiated. Now, I'm in the process of creating an app where all of the Super Hug Club members can register. And then I'll be able to start tracking the actual membership more. But right
Mm,
now, it's still kind of organic and free form.
cool. Do you know anybody else that's doing this work? Because I want to say that I might have heard. I don't know if it was you. Maybe it was of you. How long have you been doing the Super Hot Club?
The Super Hug was first coined, I want to say, in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was wanting to launch it at the end of 2019, and then COVID happened, and I was like, oh, I can't do this. People are gonna think I'm reckless, you
Yeah, yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't until yeah, August of 21 when I took it to Burning Man and
Okay.
officially launched it.
Is there anyone else doing something similar, or have you heard of
Um,
anything?
I mean, there's like the free hug movement, you know, but it's not the same.
Right.
Not the same.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know anybody doing anything like this, and it blows my mind. I'm just like, I don't know if this practice has been suppressed or, if this is just something new to humanity. I mean, that blows my mind. I've looked at all the ancient traditions and I've really found nothing with any sort of formalized, ritualized hugging practice. So as
Wow.
far as I can tell, I'm bringing something new to the world, and that just blows my mind. It's a
Yeah.
tremendous honor, tremendous honor.
Well, it's a tremendous honor for us to have you and to be your first podcast because, yeah, because I know you're a pioneer and that's so cool. New Earth, man. So you're speaking my language. Yeah. I feel like the whole purpose of my podcast, I'm sorry, my image is probably all crackly and weird because Tiam, this is Tiam. He's
Hey,
out.
yeah.
He's making he's augmenting my camera. My camera's confused. What should I focus on? But yeah, man, it's the whole purpose of lifting, it's lifting our vibration, right? It's oh, Keanu. Yeah, okay, there you go. Don't press anything, okay. Um, it's to lift our vibration because we need to anchor the love vibration on earth, and that's exactly what you're doing with a visceral way. I
Mm,
had to have you on just because you're doing the work of lifting the vibration of the earth and helping to anchor the new earth, which is here. It's just some see it, some don't, but it's up to us just
mm,
to be what it was the word I'm looking for, just to be ambassadors for the love movement. And
mm.
yeah, so how, was this something that you always were a spiritual minded person? Did something happen in your life where you like just woke up? Because not everyone is hip to, 5D, New Earth, the Law of One. So yeah, how did you get hip to that, and where did your spiritual journey begin?
Hey, first of all, thanks for seeing me, brother. Thank you
Oh,
so
of
much.
course.
Yeah,
Oh,
I really appreciate it. It means the world to me.
oh
See you,
yes.
feel you too, brother. I appreciate the work you're doing.
Oh, blessings.
Yeah, I mean, I was born into a conflict zone, so to say.
Mm,
Broken marriage. My parents divorced when I was 3.
mm,
Uh, I I began self-abandoning from a very early age. Yeah,
mm,
I started self-harming
mm,
as a
mm,
toddler
mm,
and was suicidal most of my life.
mm,
And when I was 10 years old, I started praying to God. I said, give me some direction and purpose or take my life because, honestly, this is some bullshit. Like I don't know why I'm here.
mhm,
And slowly, God's been speaking to me and the messages have been coming in. And yeah, I went vegetarian when I was 14 intuitively. I just felt like I need to stop consuming animals because I didn't want to support the subjugation of other beings anymore,
mm,
And I went completely vegan and plant-based at age 19, and I felt like taking those steps started, to clear my mind. And I would say at about age 30, I began fasting regularly, and that was like my first major act of surrender to the universe. And through that practice, more clarity came in. Like the more I released all of these things that were kind of imposed on me that I had unconsciously adopted, the more I released them and let them go, like the more the clarity came in and the guidance. And so, yeah, it's been an ongoing thing. And in 2017, my life blew up for the first time, and I wound up in therapy and 12 steps and everything. And I ended up living in this little mountain community outside of LA called Mount Baldy. I lived
mhm,
there for about 3.5 years, and every single day I would just go out for a couple hours on a hike, and I would go meditate for like a half an hour in nature. And yeah, just all the downloads started coming in, and I started getting some real clear direction. And yeah, that's when the Super Hug Club was first conceived. Was in the midst of
wow, wow,
that recovery journey. When the things that I thought I was supposed to be doing in life weren't working for me anymore. They stopped working for me. Yeah, so then as a continuation of my recovery process, I discovered plant medicine in 21, and I saw the power of that. And I just saw all the people showing up to do their work and facing their shadows. And it was just truly incredible to connect with that whole community and just see so many people who are so authentically dedicated to their healing process and willing to, go through the hardships, of relinquishing all of the self-identifications and all of the traumas and all of the belief systems. Yeah, and so I just kind of slipped right into that whole world, and I started supporting plant medicine work, and everything was actually really starting to look up in my life until last year. Yeah, the year of the dragon, it burnt me to a fine ash and blew me in the wind. Yeah, just all of the structures that I had created my whole life
mhm,
that really were designed for survival. Were not serving me any longer and was ready for me to move into thriving. And so they all had to go. And so
mm,
I've been able to reinvent myself yet again. And honestly, it's only been like the last 4 months since I was able to do that.
wow, yeah,
Yeah.
that's deep, man. Yo, that's thank you for sharing, first of all. I appreciate you being vulnerable and letting us know it. We all are here as spirits to learn, right? And to have experiences. So the more that we just continue to move forward, right? It's like that's that's just what we're here to do. And yo, man, that's deep. I know that I feel you. I came from a similar background, parents divorced at early age, and it's funny because I talk to a lot of people that have had very profound experiences, and one of the common things I hear is trauma, childhood trauma. And I don't know if souls choose, obviously souls choose to go through that trauma for a reason. It's like a slingshot. It's like a stretch the rubber band back this way and let it go. So it'll shoot you into the stratosphere. So um, it's like the cliche, no great sailor became a great sailor by sailing calm waters, and like no birth of a child ever happens without some labor pain and some pain. So I commend your journey, and that's dope. That the last 4 months have been transformative for you. I mean, so when I saw you at the Conscious Life Expo, and even now, you just have such a glow, a light behind you. You can really see it, you can feel it. I don't, that's the hugs. And I didn't even know how old you were. You said 30 when you reached your 30s. I was like, oh, he's okay. He's in his 30s. Okay, he was just like, you're looking vibrant, brother.
Thank
So,
you, thank you.
would you attribute that to the hugging and the
It's
plant
all,
base?
yeah, the plant-based diet definitely I think helped a lot. Yeah, I'm 43 actually.
Okay, yeah. See,
Yeah, yeah.
wow,
But
it's good.
it's the self-love.
Hmm.
It's the self-love. I don't know if I was looking this good last year. But the self-love came in strong. I got to download, I've been getting the downloads, but they were all zip files. And in November of last year, I actually had the honor and privilege of going on tour with Marley Tuma, who is the sole female page of the Huni Quinn tribe. And I was asked to go on this tour to be a drummer, kitchen hand, and guardian for her ayahuasca ceremonies as she
Wow.
traveled across the United States. Yeah. And I just met the most incredible people, angelic beings, just in the flesh, right? And they just
Yeah.
dropped so much knowledge and wisdom on me. And I wasn't even in a space to receive it, any of it at the time. I was just, I didn't even know if I was going to survive the tour, honestly. I was facing such deep shadows.
Mm.
And when I got back from that tour in November and I had a chance to rest and decompress and everything, it's like I unzipped all the zip files and like the
Mm.
whole program was just laid out for me. Like I knew what self-love was, and that's what I was missing my whole life.
Mm.
I had done so much work around my interpersonal relationships, but after that tour, what was clear to me last year was just like my mother-father wound that I hadn't fully addressed yet, which was like foundational to my self-esteem and everything, and was really holding me back because like I didn't have the right kind of self-esteem to move forward in life with confidence. I had a
Mhm.
really, I was very much in the 5D, but I had a hard time bringing it into the 3D.
Mm.
You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, yeah, because of my trauma and my wounding.
Mhm.
And so yeah, what I realized is that the lack of, I mean, my parents love me to the best of their ability, right?
Right.
I appreciate them. I know I chose them for a reason. And also just they didn't fully know what love was themselves. They didn't fully know how to love themselves. That was never modeled to me. I was never taught to
Mhm.
love myself. I was taught to be a martyr, and be
Mhm.
codependent and really look out for everybody else before myself, and
Mm.
didn't know how to take care of myself. And so it all landed for me in November, what that looks like. And
Mm.
yeah, I just adopted all these practices and I started journaling like I never journaled before, started tracking all these aspects of my life, just all these things that I just wasn't paying attention to before, and like the time was just flying by and I felt like I was just missing out. And now I feel fully aligned and present with every experience of my life. I feel fully in tune with God, the greatest omnipresent denominator, which is all things. Everything in my experience is God, and I am one with all of it.
Yes. 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 Everything is conscious, y'all. If you don't know, now you know. Yo, that's what's up. And it makes me think about so. Oh, he's leaving. Okay. the, the wife, she did her best to keep them corralled, but it's hard. We got two boys and a little girl, and they're just out there. I wanna. Can you offer people? So there's so many people. A couple things come up from to me when you're talking about that. One of the things I think about is the ancient Chinese saying of chop wood, carry water. So which it's talks about. So you reached enlightenment, and what next? You know, it's like chop wood, carry water. You know,
Oh,
you reached enlightenment. What's next? You got to do
hey,
the
it's party
dishes.
time. It's party time.
You know, but you know, life still got to, you know, wash. You still got to wash the dishes. You still got to cut the lawn. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so when you say you're in 5D, bringing it down into 3D, that's really, it's really an important thing. Is, you know, I feel like uh, a lot of a lot of us in the, I don't know what you would call it, new thought, ancient wisdom, new age, whatever movement. I feel like we want to stay on this in this bliss level, and it's cool. Um, but we are here. We decided to come to the 3D for a reason, and so it's important to anchor that love, and that's exactly the work that you're doing right now. It's
Mm,
anchoring that
mm,
love in the
mm.
3D because that's our direct connection. The more and letting go, right? The more we let go, the more our higher selves take over. But what I want to ask you was, what kind of practices led you to find that self love? That is such a thing that comes up over and over again that people need in their lives just to nourish themselves with that love. Can you offer any type of practice besides the hugging is a huge one, but anything else that you have used that has been helpful?
Yeah, so I've been studying the Vajrayana Tibetan lineage of Tantra. Wow, that has been so powerful. It's been incredible. It's really helped me to find embodiment and inner alignment. And yeah, I can't really say enough about it. That's been a game changer for me for sure. And also, super hugging is entry level Tantra.
Mm-hmm,
You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? And so yeah,
Yeah.
and like people think about tantra like in sexual terms, right? But that's the Western take on tantra. Tantra is all encompassing, and it includes our sexuality. Our sexuality is important, right? But that is not all there is to tantra. Like my interpretation of tantra is it's the art of connecting with everything in my experience by going so deep within myself. I come out the other side.
Mm, that's deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, tantra is it's one of those hot button words. People think it's all, you know, burlesque show sexual, but I did during my teacher training in yoga, we had a tantra segment, and one of the important things about it was service. So someone is a receiver and someone is a giver. So to be, yeah, just that feeling of service, and to, you know, we come from what I would call an ascetic society where we are afraid of our sexuality. You know, it's like we're unbalanced. You know, if you watch, you can turn on the TV. I mean, I know it's not the same now, but back in the day when you just turn on the TV and flip through channels, you can easily find, you know, cops chasing a bad guy and shootouts and everything. But you're not gonna find people like embracing and hugging and kissing. It's like that is, they won't show nudity, but they'll show someone being killed. So it just shows our imbalance. You know, it's, you know, I don't want to diss those people or diss, you know, we had to go through this in order to get to where we're getting to, but at the same time it just shows our imbalance. So I know that tantra, it's not all sexual, but at the same time it's, that's a very powerful part of ourselves that we shouldn't shy away from at the same time, just to embody and to embrace that.
Right.
And yeah, so, but I know it gets tricky with, you know, you're doing Kiani, you're doing the hug movement, and there's my other son Kiani, and
Hey, Kenny.
so I when I met you and we embraced, I really felt that was really deep, and you were really succinct, and you really gave me an important, you're like, hey, you know, this is what it is. You know, I don't want to invade your space, and you didn't even ask me for a hug. You were just like explaining the situation, and then I was like, well, should we do it? And you're like, yeah, we can do it right now if you want. And I'm like, okay, and, you know, and it felt really good. It felt safe for me, you know, because you weren't like, can I give you a hug right now? You were just like, hey, this is what I do, and it made me be like, is that, was that intentional do you usually, or do you?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So one important thing about the super hug practice is that uh, we should never ask a non-member for a super hug.
Mm,
Yeah, because a lot of people have been conditioned to people please and caretake, and they're
mm,
not in touch with their no.
mm,
And so they might agree to something that they don't really want to do, or they might not feel comfortable doing, and it's not the same. And, half the Super Hug Club practice is empowering people to get in touch with their personal sovereignty, and realize that there's never an obligation to meet somebody's requests or demands, So what I recommend for people to do is share the practice with other people that they think will be open to it, and then wait for them, gauge their reaction, right? And wait for them to express interest in it, and go forward and ask you for a super hug, because if they're not ready for it, we don't want to put them in a position where they got to give a refusal, or they might agree to something that they don't really want to do. So yeah,
that's
it's all about personal sovereignty, and really, empowering people to get in touch with that and speak their truth.
word. That's what's up, man. So what's next for you? Are you having any events? Or you just got back from a trip? Like what's going on in your immediate world?
My immediate world. Well, I'm doing this podcast today, so life got really exciting after that expo. I made so many amazing connections,
Mhm.
and there's just so much coming in. I got a brother in LA with the community center that I'm going to be facilitating at probably later this month, and yeah, connected with a brother named Laughing Monk, who's got a community center in Santa Monica, and he invited me to come facilitate over there. And so I'm just kind of, waiting to see what the universe opens up for me. I'm just taking the next step that's right in front of me. And yeah, just I'm not really too worried about how it all plays out. I'm trusting the universe. I'm trusting that I just need to show up. I did the fundraiser in Boulder for Joy's Kitchen on Valentine's Day, and I facilitated for over 100 people, and that was the biggest group that I've ever facilitated for in person.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that was glorious. It was, I mean, just it was orgasmic to witness 50 plus people all embracing each other, and just to know that, man, it's because I showed up and I answered the call that these people are connecting like this. And yeah, I remember this woman, she came up to me after the presentation. She asked me, she said, "You want to hear my super hug story?" And I was like, "Oh, from tonight?" And she's like, "Yeah, from tonight." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And so she proceeded to tell me that she bumped into her former partner unexpectedly at the fundraiser, and that he had shown up with his new partner. And to make a long story short, she ended up connecting with his new partner through a 3-minute super hug, which, yeah, like that's the ultimate testimony right there. And that
Mhm.
right there is mastery level application of the super hug practice, right? I mean, like you find those situations that feel a little, awkward or crunchy, and then you notice that aversion to it, and like lean into it. And that's
Mhm.
where the juice is at. It's like when you
Mhm.
when you face those aversions, and those triggers, and you just, embrace them with presence, right? And breathe into them. That's where the magic happens, right? Because then you
Yeah.
just connect, and you free yourself.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
the only thing that's really holding us back from all the beauty in the universe are our own fears and our own stories, and our own beliefs, right? And so we have an opportunity to challenge that and rewrite it all through this practice. That's what I mean when I talk about this will help you reach God mode. You know what I mean? It's like we need one another. We need people. We need community to be
mhm.
successful in life, to have
Yes.
our needs met. You know what I'm saying? So if we have aversions to people, we have fears, we have stories and beliefs about what they're willing to do for us or not, you know, and we're not even willing to take that first step and connect, you know, we've already sealed our own fate.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So this is an opportunity to challenge that and rewrite it all and create more opportunities, more openings to be loved and
Mm.
to receive what we need and want and have our needs met, you know. And that's one of the beautiful things about this practice and community is like the first safety agreement. There's 8 safety agreements around this practice. And the first one is to always gain consent. And through
Mm.
that process, we get to exercise speaking our needs, you know, and doing so without attachment to whether or not they're met. But at least we're going halfway, you know. We're given the opportunity to we're giving the universe the opportunity to meet us by speaking our needs, you know, and especially our need for physical connection. This is a scientifically proven need that every human being has that so many people are not having fulfilled.
That's amazing. I'm trying to corral this little guy at the same time. Yo, that's a couple things come up when you were talking about that. Is it's really interesting that you said as far as accepting what is, because every single I'm an acupuncturist by trade during the day, uh and I also am super interested in near-death experiences. And the reason that I'm interested in those is because people have spontaneous healings after, you know, dying basically. And like the doctors will see the people the next time and they're like, "What? You should be dead." Like, and they're like, "Oh yeah." But when they're on the other side, their spirit guides are like, "Okay, do you want to go back? This is time for you to go back." And they're like, "Well, my body's broke." They're like, You'll be okay." And they'll come back and they'll be like, "Fine," you know. Some, not everyone, some people have recoveries, but some people are just completely fine when they come back. And so there's always a spiritual component to all of our trauma. And I noticed that when something happens, like I have a headache or any type of pain, and I'm just like, like, this hurts, let me get rid of it. But then I remember, like, okay, there's a reason why I'm feeling this pain. Let me fully embrace and be fully into it. And when I do that, it's amazing that it will start to, it can be intense for a bit, but then it loses its teeth. And I invite everyone to do that. If you have any pain or anything, any fear, go 100% into that fear. If any type of thought that you feel, because sometimes our brains will play tricks on us and give us these thoughts that we think are real, or give us these thoughts that are negative, and that we're like, "Oh, I'm a spiritual person, I shouldn't be thinking about this." But just maybe explore why that thought is coming up and just go right into it, and it'll lose its teeth. So
Yeah.
that's what was coming up for me when you were saying that.
Mhm.
And I know that this should be a part of my my regiment. Is to I see I'm wearing your pin right now. So, but I actually haven't done any super hugs. You were the last super hug that I've done. That's so I've been a I haven't been a great super hug member since meeting you, but you know, I want to do, I'm gonna do more. I want to do more super hugs. Um, do you have a website, or where can people like find out more, get hip to the 8 principles of the Super Hug Club? And yeah.
Yeah, so you can visit superhugclub.org and it's got all the information about the practice. And to become a Super Hug Club member, all you need to do is learn the practice, which is it's simple. It's a consensual, platonic, intentional, 20-second or longer heart-to-heart hug. If you don't know about heart-to-heart hugs, you know, like I said, your heart is off center to the left side of your chest. So you enter the embrace, raising your left arm to align your heart with the person that you're hugging. And it's 20 seconds or longer, but you don't want to be in your head counting.
Mm.
The best way to time it is through the breath. If you do a 5 count inhale and exhale, 3 cycles will get you past 20 seconds. You can hold the hug as long as you or your partner wants to. And when you're ready to let go, you just give a little tap. You know, it's important to keep your hands still during the hug. Keep them in a static position above the waist because it's a platonic hug. So don't stroke them and pat them because that might be misinterpreted as non-platonic. You know, you want to keep your hands still so that when you're ready to release, you give a tap and then the person knows it's over. And as soon as you release a tap, you let go. So you never hold somebody against their will. It's fully consensual and voluntary. So that's the practice. I recommend remaining silent. If you have something that you want to tell the person, hold it until after the super hug and then offer it. Gives you the opportunity to look them in the eye when you share it and really deepen the connection. Be present with one another, and it's not distracting to the super hug then. Yeah, and then you got to learn the 8 safety agreements. It's all on the website. And the first safety agreement is to always gain consent. So never try to hold somebody for a 20-second hug without their consent, because it's not going to have the same impact. You want their consent, you want them to be in agreement, you want them to be fully present and engaged in the experience. So that's important. The second safety agreement is to self-inquire for consent. So when somebody asks you for a super hug, it's important to pause for a moment and check in with your body. Gain consent from your body. It's like people think that they're bodies, right? But like our body is a community of billions of cells and bacteria and microorganisms. It's a whole community, right? That we preside over. So like we need to respect that. Like we need to check in with our body and make sure our body's cool with it, right? We need to get consent from our own body. So the second safety agreement is to check in with yourself and gain consent from your body. The third safety agreement is to speak your truth. So it's okay to say no. You don't owe anybody a super hug. There's no obligation ever. And it's more important to not give a super hug if it comes at the cost of dismissing your own truth and defying your own boundaries. Like don't give the super hug under those circumstances. And the fourth safety agreement is to receive refusals with grace. So if somebody gives you a refusal, thank them for speaking their truth, because it's challenging for a lot of people to give a refusal. We don't want to hurt people's feelings. We want them to feel bad. But, if we're defying our own truth in the process, then what good is that doing, So never push, receive refusals with grace, thank the person for speaking the truth, because it's not always easy. The fifth safety agreement is to disengage if disregarded. So if ever somebody asks you for a super hug and you give a refusal and they're not accepting it and they keep on pushing and trying to, get you to agree to it, you just disengage. It's a really simple thing. You can change the topic, you can walk away. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to give them any more of your energy if they're not respecting your boundary. It's that simple. And that's a foreign concept to a lot of people because of the way things are set up in our society, right? It's like we're taught to bleed ourselves dry for everybody else, and not honor ourselves in the process. So we always got to take care of ourselves. That's paramount. And once you gain consent in the super hug, the sixth safety agreement is to keep your hands still. Like I said, keep them in a static position above the waist. Refrain from patting or stroking the person, because that might be misperceived. That could be overstimulating for some people's nervous systems, and it's distracting, And we want to be still and present. The super hug is a joint meditation. So it's important just to be still and really drop into it. The seventh safety agreement is to remain silent. So like I said before, if you have something that you want to share, just hold it until after the super hug. And the eighth safety agreement is to release once signaled. So as soon as you get that tap, it's done. And that's the eighth safety agreement. So you learn the practice, you pledge to the 8 safety agreements, and then you gain your Super Hug Club initiation from another member. And if there's no other member available, then go to the website, superhugclub.org, send me an email, and I'll set up a Zoom, and I'll facilitate your super hug initiation with you and another interested party. So, go ahead and share the practice. If it's something that you want to do, find another party that you think that will be receptive to it. And once they agree, then come join the Zoom and I'll facilitate your initiation. And once you're initiated, you can initiate all your people. And the cool thing about this is that the scientific research suggests that we should be having at least 8 20-second hugs a day for optimal health. So if you share this practice if everybody who adopts this practice shares it with 8 people in their life, it would take 10 cycles for us to reach everybody on Earth. And it's my goal to make the Super Hug Club obsolete. I don't want there to have to be a Super Hug Club. I want this practice to be a human cultural phenomenon. You know, I want for any 2 people to be able to meet and connect through a heart-to-heart embrace and just drop in and just cut past the stories and the identities and all the egoic superficial nonsense, you know, honestly, and just connect on that soul level because it's glorious. There's nothing like it. I just wish for nothing more than for everybody to be able to do that, experience that.
Wow. Well, yo, that's amazing. Thank you so much for your work and for being here and for sharing. And yeah, I just want to again just sending you love and appreciation for coming on tonight. And I hope to have you back so we can talk some more and touch more people as we grow as a community and we all grow together. And I'm just really grateful that we met and that you're doing this work. And superhugclub.org to check out more, to find out where you can connect with sound and the you're doing just how to become part of the movement. And it's a very organic thing, very profound thing. And let us come back to our family. Let's come back to our human family. That's what we
Mm,
are.
mm.
So
Yes, please. Looking forward to the next podcast for sure. This has been a complete pleasure and joy. And oh yeah, just it's been really nice connecting with you, brother. I appreciate you so much. And man, thanks for inviting me to my first podcast.
Thanks for
Oh,
being. I'm honored this is your first. It's going to be the first of many, I'm sure.
oh yeah, I hope so. I hope
Yes,
so.
yes. Yeah.